In this video I'm going to show you how to use a ShatterPoly Photoshop action. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to use this photo here as an example for a demonstration of the action. So the way the action works is you open up your photo, you fill in your subject with a color and just play the action. So the action will ask you to brush the areas that you wish to shatter, and after you brush the areas, all you have to do is to just click play button again, and here's the effect that the action creates. Just zoom in a little bit. So as you can see, what the action does is going to shatter the areas that you have brushed into the polygonal parts, and after the action is finished, everything remains layered, so you got a full control over the effect. You can move any of those parts if you like. You can transform them, okay, so you can scale them, rotate them, you can blur them, you can easily remove the parts that you don't like, but you can also, if you wish to create more parts, you can do that just in seconds by duplicating some of the parts layers or even duplicating the whole group. As you can see, the action also create those cracks. So there is a lot of options for customizing the design that you got. The action also create 20 color looks that you can choose from. Okay, so let me just show you a few more examples that I have made using this action. So from this photo I created this. From this photo I created this. So here from this photo I created this. And from this photo I created this. Okay, so let me just close all these windows here. Alright, so when you open up your photo, before you use the action, there are a few things that you should check to make sure the action will run without any errors. So the first thing that you should check is that your photo is a background layer, so it should be called background and have this little lock icon. So if it's something like this or anything else, just go to layer, new, and just choose a background from layer. And then click on this menu icon here and choose the panel options. And just make sure this option, the add copy to occupied layers and groups, is checked. And then go to the image mode. Your photo should be in RGB color mode, so just make sure it's in RGB color mode and also the 8-bit channel. And check the image size here. So you should use a high resolution photos, and for best results you should use photos that are about from 2500 pixels to 3500 pixels wide or high. Okay, so to load the action, just go to Window, Actions, and click on the menu icon here, Load Actions, and just choose the action according to your Photoshop version. Alright, so select the action, click Load. The action will appear in your Actions panel. And to load the brushes, you can just hit B on your keyboard to select the brush tool, right click anywhere over the canvas, and just click on the gear icon here, and you can just choose load brushes. I'm just gonna choose replace so I don't duplicate my current brushes because I have already loaded them before. So just gonna choose replace brushes and just choose the brush file that came in download. Click load. The brushes will appear in your brushes panel, and then you can just right click over here to select the pattern stamp tool, and then just click this little arrow here and then on the gear icon and just choose the load patterns, or I also gonna choose replace as I have already loaded this pattern before, and just choose the pattern file that came in download. Okay, click load, and your pattern will be is going to appear in your patterns panel. Alright, so all you have to do now is to just go to layer, new layer, to create a new layer, and just name it brush. And it's very important step. So and it's very important that you name this layer brush and that you type all the letters lowercase exactly like this, because otherwise the action won't work. So just click OK, and now all you have to do is you can just pick a brush tool, choose any color here, and using a soft brush you can uh, just fill in your subject with a color in this way, and you don't have to be too precise here, right? And what you can also do, if it's easier to you, is to just make a selection of your subject and then just fill it, right? When you're creating a selection, make sure you select this layer to create the selection, and then just select the brush layer and fill the selection while this layer is selected, so you get that color fill on this brush layer here, right? So I already done brushing before, so I'm just gonna open my PSD file. All right, here it is. So after finish with that, all you have to do is to just select the action here, ShatterPoly inside the folder, and just click play. So I'm going to fasten the video here and get back when the message shows. So the action will stop once with a message that you brush the areas that you wish to shatter. So I'm going to get back as soon as the message shows. Okay, so the action has just stopped, and here we got a message. It says, now you need to brush the areas that you want to shatter into polygonal parts. After you finish with brushing, just click play button again. Choose stop to proceed. So you click stop, and the brush tool will be already selected by the action, and also the proper brush. And the color here does not matter. The action will set this color, so you can choose any color. So just pick some color that you can clearly see what you have brushed, so it doesn't matter which color is that. And this layer here got the layer mask, so you can't brush outside of the subject. If you brush over here, it's not going to get visible until you brush over the subject. Okay, so that makes you much easier to brush over the area, so you don't have to be again to be careful when brushing over some areas. So you can just brush like this. It's just going to brush over the subject, right? So you can use square brackets on your keyboard to make to change the brush size, right? So just gonna brush like this. And if you brush some areas that you didn't want, you can just hit E on the keyboard to select the eraser tool, and using the same soft brush you can just remove those parts of the brush, those areas you have brushed but you didn't want it, right? So just gonna brush a little bit over here and a little bit over here and just a little bit over here. Alright, that's it. So after you finish with the brushing, now all you have to do is to just click play button again, and the action will continue to work. So I'm going to fasten the video here again and get back when the action is finished. Then I'm going to go throughout all the layers to show you how each layer works and how can you customize each layer to get the desired results. Okay, so the action has just finished, and just gonna close the actions panel. So also just gonna expand this layers panel a little bit. So the first thing that you probably want to do each time you run the action is to just quickly close down all these folders, right? Because then it's going to be much easier for you to work with the layers. So how to quickly do that? Just hold Control and Alt buttons for PC or Command Option for Mac, and while this group is selected, you just click on this little arrow here, and that way you're just gonna close all the folders. So first layer we got here is the brush layer, and why we have this brush layer here is because this action is made so every time you run the action you will get unique results. So even if you use the same brushed area, so if you just delete this whole folder here and just run the action again, you're going to get unique results. So all these parts will always be differently arranged and deployed, right? So you're always going to get a unique variation of those parts. So that's why I got this layer here, so I don't need it right now, so just gonna turn it off. And here we got a ShatterPoly folder. So alright, so I'm just gonna open the folder, and if you're happy with this result, so you got the overall sharpening layer here. So if you don't wish to customize anything here, you can just change the amount of sharpening by changing the opacity of this layer here. Alright. If you wish to customize the effect, then just hide this layer for now. We are going to make it again at the end of the customization, and I'm going to explain later why. Right, so I'm gonna start customizing the effect from the bottom, and what I'm going to do is I'm just gonna hide all these layers. And why that? Because then I'm going to go turn on, start turning on layer by layer, so I can easier show you how each layer works and how you can customize it. Right. So the first layer we got here is remove parts from subject. So if you just turn it on, and if you have the when you have the uh, parts and the subject folders turned on, so when you turn on this folder, it's going to make the missing parts here from your subject. So if you just hide this layer, you'll see that all the subject will not miss any parts. Alright, so if you wish to make that the subject is missing the parts from the areas you have brushed, so it makes more realistic effects, like those parts are just shattered, right? Then just turn on this layer here, so you're going to make the missing parts. So this is going to now depends from your photo background. It's usually going to remove the subject pretty well here, but you should pick the photos that have more seamless backgrounds. Then it is going to be much more accurate, right? But for example, if it doesn't look good in some areas, like for example here, the subject is going to carry it, so it not matter. But for example, you wish to just make if the subject is not covering the area, so you wish to make it look right, you can just pick, for example, the patch tool, and then just make a selection around that area, and just click and drag over the areas of the area near there, just like this. And when you press Ctrl D, Command D to deselect, it's going to just fill it, right, as you can see. So I have just made two large selections here, so just gonna brush select it like this, and just gonna so just gonna make a selection around this area. I just move it to the area that should this one, if this one area should look like this one here, so then just move selection to that area like that. Okay, so this layer here is a single color background, so if you wish to use a single color background, you can just turn on this. So just turn you just turn on this layer, double click on this color box here, and you can just choose any color of the background. So I'm just going to use this original photo background, so just not going to turn on this layer, right? So just gonna turn on the subject. So this is the subject folder, and you got three layers here. The first one here says subject remove parts 1, and this is the subject remove parts 2, and this is the original subject. So if you just turn on this one here, the subject is not going to miss any parts, alright? But if you choose this one here, it's going to miss some of the parts, and if you turn this one, it's going to miss even more parts. And why is that? You get this layer mask here, and as you can see on those black areas, the subject is not visible, so it's removed on those where you have a black color here. So as you can see, this layer mask here, you have much less the black color. So if you wish to make more, like more parts is missing, you just turn on this one here. And if you wish to make that last parts is missing, you turn on this one here. Or if you wish that none of the parts is missing, you can turn on this one here. Let me just show you how it looks when you change the background color, right? So what you can also do is you can manually make the missing parts. And how you do that is you select, for example, you use the original subject, and you select this layer mask here. You pick a brush tool, just hit B on your keyboard, and you can choose, for example, this brush here, and set foreground color to black. Just gonna make it a little bit smaller, and on the areas where you brush is just going to remove your subject, right? just like that. Later, if you wish, for example, to make it visible, to make that parse not missing from here, then just set foreground color to white and then just brush over those areas, for example, so it's missing only from those, to make it more precise, to miss from those areas we wanted, right? I'm just gonna use this one layer here, so let me just turn on this. And what you got here, if I just hide this layer mask, these are the cracks, alright? And when you open the properties panel, if you can't find it here, you can just go to window, choose properties. As you're lowering the density, you're lowering the opacity of those cracks, alright? I'm just gonna leave it to default 100. And here we got a crack shadow. So this layer is just going to add the shadow to all those cracks to make to add a little bit of depth there. So as you can see, what we got here now, we got a shadow over here where the parts of the subject are missing. So what you have to do then, depending on if you have turned on this layer, then you just drag this layer mask, hold Alt or Option, just drag this layer mask over this one here, layer, and just choose yes, and you're going to remove it or on that place, right? So if you have used this layer, then you just drag this layer mask over there. Alright, so the cracks are removed on all areas where the subject is also removed, just like that. And you can change the opacity of the shadow. Alright, and let me now just here we got just gonna turn on the Parse folder. Alright, so when you open the folder, let's look what we got here. We got a small parts, we got a medium parts, large parts, very large parts, and blurred parts. So if you just hide all these layers, so here we got a small parts, the medium ones, the large ones, very large parts, and the blurred parts. And these very large parts or blurred parts are layered into the more layers. You also got these two additional blurred parts layer if you wish to add more blurred parts. And as you can see, what you can do is you can select any of those layers and using a move tool you can just move the parts as you like. Alright, as you can see. You can also press Ctrl T, Command T, and then you can rotate, scale the parts. If you wish to remove some parts, you can simply hide some of the layers, or for example, if you wish to remove from this layer this part here, you just select this layer mask, pick a brush tool, set foreground color to black, you just choose the soft brush and you just brush over that part. Right, you can also use this main layer mask here. So this layer mask, when you brush black into here, it's going to remove any of those blurred parts, and this main layer mask here is going to remove any of the parts where you brushed. Right, so you can just start brushing. It's going to remove any of the parts because all parts are inside of this folder here. So when you brush black in this layer mask, you're removing any of the parts. If you brush it to this one, it's just going to remove any of the blurred parts. This layer mask is just going to remove any of the very large parts, but each of these parts have their own layer mask, right? So if you wish to remove some specific part, but if you brush into this layer mask, you're just gonna it's hard to not brush the other parts, then you just use some of these layer masks. Alright, and I'm just gonna select these parts over here. So if you're not sure on this which layer is this part here, you can just set this to the layer and use Control Command to check the auto select. Just click on the part that you want to select and going to get automatically selected here into the layer. Then you can move them around, right? Just like that. What we got here are the parts contrast. So this layer here, when you click on the word opacity, drag it aside. I'm gonna change the contrast, but only of the parts, right? And for each layer that you customize by changing the opacity, you can just click on the red opacity, drag it aside, alright? Or you can click on this arrow here and then just move this little pointer here. Alright, so I'm just gonna set the part contrast something like this. Here we got a part saturation, so when you double click here, you can change the saturation of the parts. I'm just gonna increase it a little bit, something like this. And here we got a part brightness, so you double click here and you can move any of those three pointers to change the brightness. So just gonna increase the highlights a little bit. So just gonna drag this one here, just like that. And I'm just gonna select this layer here. I'm just gonna pick a brush tool and select the foreground color. Gonna set the foreground color to white. I pick a brush tool, and now when you brush over some areas, you're just gonna uh, reveal the original subject of those areas. So just gonna brush a little bit some areas to make this effect, uh, to make it visible the more those where we got the cracks, right? And just gonna do it like this, just like that. All right. And what we got here are the color looks. So here we got you can choose from 20 different color looks, and all you have to do is to select the color look that you like, turn it on, see how it looks, and if it doesn't suit your photo, just try with another. All right. What you can also do is to combine a few color looks. Like how you do that is to just turn on, for example, this one and this one. You can then just play with the opacities of both of these color looks and create this way you can create more color looks. All right. So I'm just gonna pick this one here. All right. And what we got here is the overall contrast. So this layer is going to adjust the contrast of the whole folder, including the parts. So the whole folder, the parts, the subject, and just gonna set it to something like this. Here we got the add vibrance. So this layer is just going to add a little bit of the saturation of the vibrance to your photo. So you can play with these settings here. Just gonna keep the default. And here we got the overall brightness. So this layer here is going to affect the brightness of the whole photo. Alright, so I'm just gonna increase the overall highlights a little bit, just slightly like this, and just gonna select again those parts and just gonna move them a little bit like this. Alright. And I'm just show you again how it looks when you use a single color background. Alright. So to just turn it off. So here we got the overall sharpening layer, and why I need to make this layer again if you make any changes is because if I move this layer, you can see those lines that are the edges of the photo, they're giving the sharpening. So when you make any changes here, you need to update this layer again. And how can you do that? Is to create it again. So you can see now you got the lines because from the parts that were positioned right there. So when you move the part, the sharpening will not be proper. So I'm just going to delete this layer and just press Alt Control Shift E or Command Option Shift E to make a snapshot, and then press Control Command Shift U to desaturate the whole photo. Then go to Filter, Other, High Pass, just set radius to 2 pixels and change the blending mode to hard light. And now you can change the amount of sharpening by changing the opacity here. Alright, so let's just quickly check the before and after. So this is the before and this is the after effect. Okay, so I hope you understood everything, but if you still need any help or you got any questions, feel free to contact me anytime via my Envato profile page. Thanks for watching.